I was programmed to leave your peculiar zombie takeout untreated.
Hello and welcome to Zombie Takeout, the B-movie and cult movie show. I'm John.
I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some feedback. This is from Bodo. Yes, you were right. There was a voicemail there last week that I had not gotten to.
A broken clock twice a day.
Yeah. And here it is.
Hey, it's Bodo. I have a question for you. Since I have a little pea brain when it comes to technology, how do I listen to the music podcast again, or the music iTunes thing that you do, or music YouTube thing? Because I'm not understanding something, and I keep missing it. Anyway, We Are in the Shadows. What a great movie. How in the blue hell did I not hear about this? Kind of disappointed in myself, but then again, you guys do come up with some stuff that I haven't seen before. Keep up the great work, and I will watch the next movie next. Peace. Bye.
Thank you, Bodo. I cleared this up with him on Twitter, explained how to do it, and he was able to subscribe. But for those who don't know, you can subscribe to the audio versions of both shows. They're both in the same feed. Just go to johnandscotto.com. The link's in the description. On the right-hand side, you'll see the sidebar with all of our links. In there is subscribe via RSS and subscribe via iTunes. If you know what subscribing via RSS means, you know how to do it. And with iTunes, just go to the link, open in iTunes, and click subscribe. Of course, it's free. Oh, and you're welcome for bringing what we do in the shadows to your attention. It's a great movie. I'm glad we could turn you on to it.
Oh, that was him?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so good.
Yeah. No, he became aware of it because of us. So he didn't tell us about it. I found out about it a few months ago. But
okay. I was gonna say.
And we've got some news. Well, it's nearly spring, and of course, spring leads to summer, and summer can only mean one thing on this show: Sharknado 6.
Oh,
a poster, a poster, and a blurb have been released, and the blurb reads: "All is lost, or is it? Finn unlocks the time-traveling power of the Sharknado in order to save the world and resurrect his family. In his quest, Finn fights Nazis, dinosaurs, knights, and even takes a ride on Noah's Ark. This time, it's not how to stop the Sharknadoes, it's when." And it airs on July 25th.
That's brilliant.
This sounds good. This sounds real good. It'll make up for the last two, which we had kind of differing opinions on, but they were definitely kind of lackluster, both of them. I prefer 5, you prefer 4. But I honestly hope this is the last of the series.
Yeah, it's time to bring this home.
Yeah, and there's nowhere else they can go.
Right.
They've covered the U.S., they've covered Europe and Asia, possibly Africa. I don't know if I think they may have ventured into Africa in the 5th one.
They didn't go deep enough into space for my liking.
They touched on space, but really, I think they just need to do the time traveling thing with all of the Nazis and the dinosaurs and all of that, and that's just going to be a nice big epic ending for the series.
Yeah, it just never happened in the first place.
And I hope that my earlier prediction that they will keep going until Ian Ziering refuses turns out to be incorrect.
I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to say no.
Yes, that's my fear.
If there's money on the table,
exactly,
they're going to keep going. What if they'll just move on to another creature?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, he's done other sci-fi movies. I mean, he was in Aztec Rex, and he's probably done a few others. Anyway, on to this week's movie, which is from 2013 or 2014. It's kind of iffy.
Depending the country you were in, I guess.
Pretty much. Because I don't think it ever got an official domestic release here. Or in other countries. It was all festivals and such. Anyway, the movie is The Zero Theorem. And of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary. Sponsored by the Church of Batman the Redeemer. Bored with Buddhism? Sick of Scientology? The Church of Batman the Redeemer may be the answer for you.
That's interesting. Well, anyway, it's our first sight gag.
We can do those now.
Yeah. Other than the roll of toilet paper.
Yeah.
And also brought to you by Mancom. Have numbers you need crunched? Come to Mancom for all your soul-crushing needs. All right, so
This should be interesting.
man, this hit too close to home, honestly. Holy fuck.
And you haven't had to summarize a Terry Gilliam movie in a while.
Well, it's just the subject of this movie
Oh,
was
that's true. Yes.
just so all right.
I think it hit home for both of us for different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I used to work at an internet startup company. I'm going to just start off right there. And the job was just pretty much becoming one with the computer for 8 to 9 hours and just getting as many numbers crunched as possible. Now, I wasn't doing equations like this, of course, or anything that high end, but it was the same feeling. And there were all these weird, flashy things going on, and just kind of like, there's a, well, I'd give away what it was if I told you about the video of the dinosaur in the office building from like a year or two ago. Or no, it was more than that. It was back when I worked there, actually.
Okay.
The dinosaur in the office building meme that went around, not meme, just video.
Is this the same company that you had to give up a online project that you were doing, a kind of a comedy site you were working on for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
That.
just so you know which one it is that I'm talking about. But I guess I probably could if I wanted to, but I still have friends there.
Okay.
But yeah, so he is just pretty much one with his computer, crunching as many numbers as he can per day, wondering why the fuck does he have to come in here if he can just do the same job at home. And yeah, that was my life for a few years there. And then, as they say, be careful what you wish for. He finally does get his work from home status. And the trade-off is, though, they're handing him an insane project to do and not giving him any time of his own to recoup for it. And, well, he winds up staying in there for a good, at least a year?
Mm.
I mean, the company, of course, handles every aspect of his life, from his psychological well-being, when they realize he has not been with a woman in who knows how long. I forgot what he said, he got divorced. They send a call girl to him, or set him up with one. But really, they want him to solve this one equation, which is, of course, the zero theorem, that everything adds up to nothing. And of course, not sure how a company would profit off such a theorem.
Well, as he said, and I kind of wondered that myself, but he said there's a lot of profit in turning chaos into order.
Right. And I guess
which explains all of the different churches we see at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Right. And yeah, the world is in chaos when they go outside. It is the set of 12 Monkeys, pretty much, with a lot more electricity.
Yeah.
It's 12 Monkeys, only it's all hooked up to the internet finally, and scary scrolling ads in real time. And
Gilliam has given conflicting statements as to whether his personal view is that the film is the third part in the trilogy of 12 Monkeys in Brazil, or Brazil and 12 Monkeys.
I never thought of them as a single trilogy, but
neither did I. But they are kind of spiritual successors, I guess.
They definitely are, and it's not really the future that he's doing, I feel, in this one, whereas the other ones, I felt like he was talking about a distant time, whereas this was, what's happening right now. So to sum this up, he comes pretty damn close to solving the equation. The management's, the company owner's son gets a little too close with him, though, and well, hilarity ensues.
And the black hole at the beginning of the film, which really sums up the film in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
it becomes kind of emblematic, and it's oddly calming in a way.
It
Because it's the
is.
swirling image. It's not just a wide shot of a black hole. It's kind of this storm in space.
Well, right. And I mean, remember we reviewed the black hole. They were trying to make it all menacing and stuff,
Mhm.
but their effects were, of course, 1982 effects. But yeah, in this, it's oblivion. And I guess oblivion can be tranquil if you think about
Well,
it.
that, and it's just in the sense of how it was moving. It was very water-like and
Right.
very calming in that sense. And then we get to his house, his home, which is in a church, which is again very fitting for the film.
Yeah.
And there's almost no light, which is a very nice touch. And then he goes outside, and it's incredibly bright and loud
Oh, yeah.
with these ads, just these targeted ads that know you're walking past them. Did they do the same thing in 12 Monkeys?
You know, I don't
'Cause I've
remember. It's
seen
been
that
a
in
while
another
since I've
movie.
seen 12 Monkeys.
I don't know if it's 12 Monkeys. I know I've seen that in another movie. The ads know you're walking past them, and they're targeted right to
Yeah.
you. And the ads were brilliant. I mean, various religions and different financial companies, and very basically the city was Gilliam on 11.
Oh, yeah. And like the homeless guy living in front of his house, yelling at him to go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he gets to work the Mancom office, which looks it had to have been modeled after the New York Stock Exchange. Looks
I guess
exactly
so.
like it.
There was a certain company I used to work for. The break areas were a lot like that.
Ah, okay.
I mean, our work areas were very sparse, but the break areas were a lot like that.
But the room the way the computers were set up in the room and everything, I actually Googled some pictures of the New York Stock Exchange. It's identical.
Okay.
And they
I
never.
didn't know that. I mean, I guess it's really that flashy, but
Well, not. I mean, they don't have quite as many monitors, and they're not quite as active as the movie. But that's the Gilliam touch.
yeah.
They're not pedal operated either. but the setup was very, very similar. And they never say what Mancom does other than they crunch numbers. And
that is very vague. There's a lot of companies like that now, though. I mean,
True.
We manage hedge funds or importers, exporters. There's I mean, so many ways of saying I don't know what the fuck we really do.
And they have a very interesting way of crunching the numbers. Basically, chemical software. There's these little vials that.
Is that what that was?
It's like a little vial of powder that is apparently somehow the software. Interesting idea. But what Cohen, Christoph Waltz is the main actor.
Yeah. It was like Cohen with a Q was his
Cohen
name.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Well, his job is just bizarre because I mean he's a number cruncher, but he does it by pedaling while working this like game console controller, and essentially playing a game to crunch the numbers.
Right. It's kind of like what would that be? Like a VR simulator of some sort, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the VR gets into it later, but he has to, target these blocks, and these are parts of the equation that crunch the numbers. It's odd. And then he goes, he's talking about, he's having these medical issues. He goes to these doctors that work for the company, and they say his hair falling out is perfectly normal. I wish someone could have told me that 20 years ago.
Well, it is kind of. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it was a little premature in my case, but this is by choice because it was already going about 20 years ago. But I just got a kick out of he's losing his hair, and it was perfectly normal. Also, I thought Matt Damon, who plays his boss, was Bruce McCullough at first. I never noticed the similarity, but that first shot of him, I could have swore it was Bruce McCullough. It's just this incredible dystopia that is actually very similar to Brazil, but it's, I think, a bit more modernized. Brazil was straight diesel punk. This has some modern computers in it.
Well, yeah, Brazil was very post-apocalyptic more than anything else.
True. That too. And the neural net mainframe just looks like something out of Dark City.
Very much so. But was that real?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, because he shows him Joby David Thewlis's character,
Yeah.
shows him the computer early on in the film. He actually brings him to it and shows it to him, and it looked very much the same as the end
Okay.
of the movie, which is debatable.
But because I mean, the end of obviously was not real, which
Yeah.
I mean is the same as Brazil in a way.
Yeah,
Only
sure.
they were more obvious that it was not real.
And when he finally gets when he's finally allowed to work from home, is it just me or does his home seem brighter?
Yeah, I thought there were some parts of the ceiling came out or whatever.
Yeah. There was just better lighting than in the beginning. Granted,
Yeah.
the beginning was early in the morning, so maybe it was dark for a reason. I loved the line about how he doesn't eat anything that has any perceptible flavor. Basically, Cohen is the embodiment of depression.
Yeah. Well, and the last name Leth is that the river of forgetfulness. I think
okay.
there's an extra e at the end of that spelling though, but I'm not sure if that's a coincidence. But I think it's he's forgotten how to live.
And he believes that he had once received a phone call that was about to tell him the meaning of life, but he hung up accidentally, and he spends his whole life waiting for this call. And it's so emblematic of so many people, just waiting for something to make their life make sense.
And it's some dumb telemarketer. You didn't even need the character to say that.
I just figured it was a dream or something, or delusion.
It could have been, but I mean, most
likely telemarketer probably too. That's a good bit too. Yeah, and it took me a while to get 0 must equal 100. And this is my second time seeing it. It still took me a minute to connect to that. And I knew where it was going.
Everything has to equal to 0 somehow.
Well, no, 0 must equal 100 means everything must equal nothing.
Right.
There is no meaning in life.
Right.
Which is what the computer. Spoiler, that's what the computer gets to.
But yeah, that's the whole thing. Like 100% equals nothing.
Yeah. And then, of course, he encounters Bob, this teenage kid who's the boss's son, who calls everybody Bob because it just simplifies things.
Right.
And has this really obvious American accent.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
It's a Terry Gilliam film, so most of the cast are Brits.
I thought they were all different nationalities.
Most of them are Brits. Christoph Waltz, I think, is German, but I'm not sure. Maybe Austrian.
It makes sense because Matt Damon's American too, and he didn't at least venture an accent or anything.
Well, no, but it didn't stick out. Maybe because we don't really hear him until the end. No, he does talk to him in the middle too. Can't think of the character's name. The call girl. She's French. So yeah, there are a couple of other European accents, but even though Matt Damon wasn't doing an accent, his American accent didn't stick out as much as Bob's for some reason. And Bob is it seemed like he was just kind of the typical American.
Yeah.
Very much a stereotype.
Well, he's kind of, you could tell there's something wrong, like you're not really sure. I'm not sure if they even said truthfully
what was wrong with Bob. No,
what was wrong with him, but
they never explain it.
They said he'd been sick.
Yeah,
and really he'd been shut up too, most likely,
probably.
For a long time, which is why he's like, "Come on, you got to live a little," and trying to, let Cohen out of his shell.
And Bainsley, that's her name, the call girl.
Yes.
She's very much the same. She has a very lonely life. And so when she and Cohen find each other, it was a job, but they really form an attachment.
Yeah.
And so it ends up with this parade of people coming in and out of Cohen's place. Bob, Bainsley, these two guys called the clones. One is tall and thin, one's short and heavy. Probably the most Gilliam thing I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, that was straight out of Brazil. I would have been surprised if something like that was in Brazil at all.
Mm-hmm. I also loved the version of Creep that plays throughout the movie. Radiohead's Creep. But there's this jazz version.
Yeah, I kind of think Westworld really kind of ripped off this.
Haven't seen Westworld. Meaning to get around to it one of these days.
But they do a lot of the stuff on the player piano in Westworld, and Creep is one of them.
Okay. Oh.
But you have to kind of catch on to it. You're in the saloon and the player piano is playing something, just kind of in the background, and you have to be like, wait a minute, is that Black Hole Sun?
Nice. Speaking of music, I was not prepared for Tilda Swinton's musical number. She practically raps.
Yeah.
And it's a very classic Tilda Swinton character. Long, dark bob wig, giant glasses, the overbite teeth. That Tilda Swinton character, pretty much rapping.
I mean, making the psychiatrist, a Scots woman is just come on.
Yeah, she is the therapist Rom, I think they call it. The therapist in a box that they give Cohen to treat his illnesses. And also, so he Bainsley gives him this VR suit because this is part of her job,
Right.
And it's this full body VR suit that can give you a full experience. And he goes in, and this is when you first hear Creep. She's an online cam girl, sort of thing. And in VR they go to this beach, and where the sun never sets, and apparently the alcohol can't get you drunk. What's the point?
We're just drinking this for the taste.
And there's this, as I said, this unending sunset, which is really both of them kind of denying reality and denying the zero theorem. And they periodically go back to this black hole, which really represents the zero theorem. At least this is all my interpretation.
Well, and what is a sunset if it doesn't actually change or end? If it just hangs in one spot, And I think that's what the ending is kind of about. There's no point to it all unless there's change.
Right,
Unless there's progress or evolution. And he brings them to, of course, the black hole. That's what I mean. She's saying, okay, just think about anything and we'll just get right to it. And he brings her to oblivion pretty much.
In the VR, they suddenly they flash into space. They end up in the middle of space being pulled toward this black hole because Cohen took over the simulation, took over what the program was. And he's obsessed with mortality, basically.
Yeah.
He's obsessed with nothingness because he's so terrified of it.
Well, he's also been working on this.
Yeah, that too. He's been working on
this. Has been his work for well over a year.
Yeah.
So they put him on this, and that's now more of the obsession than the phone call, even.
Yeah, but even before then, he was waiting for the call because he desperately needed to this confirmation that.
Yeah, but did you notice he stopped answering the phone?
Yeah, because that's when everything lit up, and you get the parade of people, and Bainsley. He really connects with Bainsley and Bob.
Yeah.
And he forms some human connections, so he's not so obsessed with nothingness.
Right. It's before Bob tells him that the phone call is nothing.
Right.
But I mean, it's ringing and he's just not answering it, and then Bob actually has to answer it for him because he's just so into trying to get this equation done.
Uh-huh. And so Bob takes him out. Just walking through the city one day, and one of the things Bob says there just really hit home. Old people, they do the same thing day after day after day. I resemble that remark.
I was quite happy because I don't. I'm always, who knows where I will be until I get there.
In fairness, I've always been a creature of habit, but that one hit home. And he does this with Bob just after he sends Bainsley away, which I thought was a nice touch because she wants to run away with him. She had fallen out of the heels, and she says, "Let's run away together." And he says no. But then a few minutes later, Bob says, let's take a walk," and he's okay with it because she was too much. That was too much of a commitment. Whereas just walking around the city with Bob was a small enough step that he could do. And even when he's out, he's willing to expand his diet. He has a hot dog. And he says, put something like plenty of relish on it or something along those lines.
We like relish.
Yeah, we like relish. Thank you. And then I'm glad you remember the exact line, because then they come back and he drops the we.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie, he refers to himself as we. And after this outing with Bob, he drops it. Another odd thing one odd thing I noticed, I mean, it's a Terry Gilliam movie, as everything,
Oh, yeah.
but inconsistent thing I noticed, or something that doesn't make sense. He starts noticing the cameras that are on him all the time. His boss is watching him through, and he starts tearing them apart. He just destroying them.
Which
And
was
then,
odd because they weren't subtle.
well, they weren't subtle, and as soon as he starts going after them, they all start beeping.
Oh.
Why would they suddenly start beeping?
Yeah, I don't know why they would be equipped with something that would even beep.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. Maybe it was just a surrealistic touch, just a style thing for Gilliam.
Well, to add tension, he's got to get these things and get them out.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah.
This is all coming out right now, today.
So, Bob becomes ill after their outing. Has some kind of fatigue disorder. I'm guessing he was running a fever and collapsing. So he's taken out. There's a rumor that he had some kind of sexual involvement with Bob, and Bob is 15. So he basically loses everything. And then we have the ending of the movie, which is fascinating, even more fascinating than the movie up to this point. He puts on the VR suit to try to connect with Bainsley, and gets zapped across the room because of an error. And suddenly he's in central control. What is it? I said it a minute ago. The neural net mainframe. He's at the big computer, and he has a little standoff with his boss, Matt Damon's character.
Right, and I mean, it's obvious, of course, that's all virtual.
Yeah. Or it's in his imagination or something, because he was practically knocked unconscious a moment before it happened.
I think it is, because I mean, what I'm thinking happened was their way of terminating him was bringing him into the computer itself.
I think you're probably right about that. Yeah, given some of the things that were said, it kind of got the impression that he's now part of the neural net.
Yes.
And Damon's character has a great line. The saddest aspect of man's need to believe in a God, or to put it another way, a purpose greater than this life, is that it makes this life meaningless.
Wow.
Love that line.
That is good. That is good.
Because I really misunderstood the ending of this film when I first saw it. I somehow missed the part when he got thrown across the room, or I didn't make the connection that was him leaving his body effectively. And I thought he really went there.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that ending...
that does change everything.
I thought he really went there and ripped apart the computer.
Had a confrontation and took it all apart.
I thought that was in reality. And, he gets sucked up into the black hole that's powering the computer, and he dies, and he ends up... I thought they were saying that he's in heaven now, which really went against a lot of the sort of... No. Because the movie has a fairly atheistic view.
Yeah.
And it really went against that. So I'm glad I caught that little detail this time. It really completely changed my opinion.
That is, Tuttle getting lobotomized at the end of Brazil.
Yeah, exactly.
Or was it Buttle? I forget which one was which now. Governments can confuse it. Why can't I?
Right, exactly. So, yeah, he in this, either in virtual reality, whatever it is, has this confrontation. And I think he's getting closer to accepting that there's nothing. And it's one of those moments where when you get closer to accepting something like that, you start fighting it even harder. That part of you that still wants to believe really goes into a death roll, basically.
Well, and the nothing is just, being inside that, the neural net itself.
Well, that realization doesn't help. And so he just tears apart the computer with his bare hands, and gets sucked into the black hole. As soon as he rips, enough of the computer apart, the black hole is exposed. He gets sucked into it and ends up back on the beach. And it was this, and Bainsley is there. And it was his final act of defiance to reality, basically.
Well, now he's, a god himself in there, at least.
Yeah, kind of, effectively.
He can, play around with the sun if he wants to.
And commenting on the film's misrepresentation by critics, Gilliam stated on his official Facebook page that one of the few critics to note that the Zero Theorem was not a comedy, but actually a tragedy, was Dave Lancaster of Cinemas Online in his analysis of the film. And I
Terry
finally,
Gilliam doesn't do comedies.
not really, no.
None of like even like Baron Munchausen. I mean, there were comic elements to it, but if you
Well,
look at the story itself,
but
it's a
yeah,
sad story.
but I kind of see them as very dark comedies.
Yeah,
To me, that they're dark comedies.
it's
But
sort of a gallows humor thing. I
exactly,
mean, but
yeah,
in the end, yeah, they're all tragedies. In fact, 12 Monkeys was pretty much
yeah.
like
Oh, yeah, I don't see that as a comedy at all.
that was Cassandra, the
Yeah, yeah.
story of the woman who could see the future and nobody
Mhm.
believed her. And there's, I remember the first time seeing it, and I think I had just read Agamemnon at the same time and was like, yeah, there was like scenes that he was taking directly from it where, they're walking into the airport and they knew what was going to happen at the end.
Right.
And that's probably why I think Leth is, was intentional
Oh
as
yeah.
the river of
Yeah,
forgetfulness.
Gilliam doesn't name anything coincidentally.
But they're all tragic stories.
Mhm.
I can't say Brazil was a fucking comedy. What the hell?
Well, that's when again I see it as a dark comedy, a very, very dark comedy.
I mean, there was a satire for what was going on at the time, the plastic surgeries and stuff, and where this was
Mhm.
going to. Uh, and there's just bureaucratic mistakes causing people's lives, and it just terrible oppression.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of this reminded me of 1984, actually. In
Oh,
fact,
absolutely, yeah.
all of it reminded me of
Um,
1984, but just like the
Mordecom
whole
is Big Brother.
yes, right, exactly, and you know, this is him and his lover getting like a quick
Yeah.
moment to themselves, away from everything else, but in reality, Big Brother knows everything.
And the tragedy is really Cohen's failure to accept reality,
Yeah.
even to the end. Oh, and just a quick note about the tenuous link between 12 Monkeys and Brazil. There's a character named Bob in the movie who calls everybody Bob. A similar character appears in 12 Monkeys as a voice that speaks to Bruce Willis's character.
Oh,
So there is a slight tenuous kind of sort of link.
okay. I have to watch 12 Monkeys again. I loved that movie.
I
Have we
have not
reviewed
seen
that?
that in ages, and we should. Yeah, we really need to get to that one.
I guess we haven't, because
No,
I
we
probably
haven't.
have
I know
not.
we haven't.
I probably have not seen it for the length of our run, which I
No.
mean that's a long time.
I probably saw it shortly after it was in theaters. I think I rented it. I think I went to a physical place and rented the movie. I'll put it that way.
Holy shit! I know I saw it in the theater, and then I think I saw it a couple times, like when it came to video after that.
Mhm.
But I don't think I've seen it since.
I would say on to sequels and remakes, but there's no room for a sequel, and it's a Gilliam movie, so no one should remake it.
The sequel could be nah, fuck it.
Yeah. And no one should ever remake a Gilliam movie.
And it would take like 20 years for Gilliam to get it together to
This is
make it
true.
anyway.
This is true.
Who are we kidding?
Yeah. Underbrains.
Yeah, the brains.
The only slight issue I have with it is that bit with the beeping cameras, but that's really just a style point on Gilliam's part. I'm going 5.
I'm going 5 as well. I got to see this again. There's so much in there, and yeah, the
Mhm.
the future is overwhelming. But this is, of course, going on right now. Well, I
Yeah.
guess you could say that for all of his movies about the
Yeah. Oh,
future.
yeah. That's any great science fiction, but
Except
yeah.
12 Monkeys, I guess.
Oh, yeah. But I'm just so glad I revisited this one because that my misunderstanding about the ending ruined it for me.
Oh yeah, that would make changes everything entirely if
Yeah.
it had like a ridiculous. I'm gonna confront him.
Yeah. So I'm glad I finally understand the movie now and see the genius of it.
Another great aspect of the movie, Matt Damon's performance
Mhm.
is really fucking creepy as hell.
Because he's a dead straight character who never shows no emotion.
And I mean, the whole set and costume design thing in the beginning with his first couple scenes really help because he's so fucking creepy,
Yeah.
wearing that suit that matches the chair covers and everything.
All right, so what have we learned?
Jesus Christ, that hidden camera was loud.
And I learned that life might be seen as a virus infecting the perfect organism of death.
I thought it was a piece of shit when you look at it.
Or it's a STD with a 100% mortality rate.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
All right, so that's it for the Zero Theorem. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't. Down in the description, you'll find the trailer for the Zero Theorem and a link to its IMDb page. Speaking of links, you'll find links to zombietakeout.com, where you'll find our movie list and our recommendations list. Obviously, it's a Terry Gilliam film. It's going on the rec list.
I don't know if it was going to get a 5. I was wondering where it was going, but...
And you'll also find links to all of our social media accounts, as well as I mentioned earlier, links to subscribe to the audio version of this show via RSS and iTunes, and our email address and voicemail number. Until next time, we will be reviewing Pulp Fiction. This is something, well, the YouTube viewers might not know, since I don't number the episodes. This is going to be our 350th episode, counting all 8 years of audio podcasts.
Yes.
And we always do something special for every 50 episodes, so this is our special episode.
Still getting the hang of this visual thing, but, bear with us.
All right, so until then, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.